G'day, I'm Ben, and thanks for tuning in. This is where I review things, anything at all worth talking about. I ask what and how, but also what was the plan and how could things play out differently. And today I'm talking about something that is definitely worth talking about. Something that we started to hear a lot more about and we'll definitely hear a lot more about in the future because the heat is ramping up on ticket resellers. Now, like all things worth talking about, there's a lot of passion being thrown around on these guys. So let's take an important step back and look at everything holistically before I round out what the future may hold. We'll talk about what they are, the benefits, the problems they bring, why not much has been done so far, and what can or should be done. So what are ticket resellers? The important thing is they're not the promoters. They're not the people putting on the concert. Nor are they the vendor that those people putting on the event decided to sell their tickets through. They're a marketplace, like eBay, Gumtree, or the Trading Post. They came about to fill a pretty reasonable gap in the market. Sites like eBay were designed to allow ease of selling products, and while people were selling tickets on eBay, there was enough demand for the ticket niche to warrant a spin-off in the dot-com boom. StubHub were the first to take that niche and run with it, coming out of the US in 2000, co-founded by a guy named Eric Baker. They're actually owned by eBay now. And in 2006, a company called Viagogo essentially started the same thing out of London before settling in Switzerland. Viagogo were the brainchild of a guy named Eric Baker. Yes, the same Eric Baker. And see, with the growth of electronic tickets in the market, the need for niche sellers like StubHub and Viagogo only grew, with specific solutions designed for our email-based world. Haven't you ever bought tickets to a concert or an event and realized you couldn't go, so you needed to scramble to try and sell them? Yeah, me too. Or haven't you ever wanted to buy tickets after the event sold out and you really wanted to go? Yeah, same. So essentially they're a service. They're a service that helps people get rid of tickets they can no longer use. And they're a service that helps connect people with the tickets they desperately want but missed out on at point of sale. So what's the big deal with them? Feels like there's this massive groundswell of musicians like the Rubens Gang of Youths, Amy Shark, the Smith Street Band, Tash Sultan, and many more, specifically calling out ticket resale sites and Viagogo as evil. It's an interesting thing seeing how when Viagogo first entered the Australian market in 2013, Eric Baker made claims about how his company was actually helping to reduce fraudulent activity and provide a safe and convenient way to buy and sell tickets. And while Viagogo are definitely the largest, the Australian market also has Ticketmaster Resale and a local counterpart of StubHub. And there's some really important reasons why artists are angry. Because even if Viagogo's intention was to be a leader in revolutionizing the industry for good, where we are now is pretty far from that. The main issue with them is inflated demand and inflated prices. There are absolutely legitimately people selling tickets on sites like Viagogo for less than they paid for them originally. People who, as I mentioned, are genuinely using the service for what it is. An easy way to get rid of those tickets they no longer need. But more common than not, ticket holders are charging like a wounded bull. In some cases, some of the prices have multiplied up to nearly 400%. There are high-profile examples like the $539 Justin Bieber VIP ticket that sold for $2,555 to some crazy believer. Yeah, not really surprising given how some people really love the Biebs, but it's still pretty shocking. So the thing is, where the average Jane, Joe, or Taylor will go and get 1, 2, 3, or 4 tickets, scalpers will treat it like they're greyhounds at a Playboy party and will lunge at the maximum amount of tickets at a time through the use of robot scripts, otherwise known as bots. They'll also have dozens, or in some cases hundreds of accounts set up so that they can buy as many tickets as they can. Doesn't quite make you seem so badass for trying to refresh your phone and your PC at the same time now, does it? See, the scalpers get these tickets for the pure purposes of selling them for dollars. At the time of writing, the $170-ish Red Hot Chili Peppers tickets for their Australian shows next year had long sold out. I looked at Viagogo for the Melbourne Short Rod Laver Arena and saw tickets getting sold for $700 or even $1,000, literally getting snapped up as I viewed the page. And see, some people will be watching this and they're thinking, well, $700 to be on the floor in general admission, well, those tickets are worth it. But see, they're not. The value is literally printed on the ticket. They weren't designed to be floated like a stock exchange. So anything paid above that is not what it's worth. Anything above that is a profit. Profit that goes into someone's pocket. This isn't like when Uber came in and the taxi industry flipped out because they had competition. Because that was different. That was an innovative product entering a market, and the alternative stimulated competition. This would be the equivalent of if Uber was sitting in the passenger seat of your taxi, and when you get to where you're going, the Uber turns around and charges you 3 times the fare and simply passes the taxi driver what was on the meter. AKA, it's a rip-off. And see, while a lot of the conversation focuses on Viagogo, prices on Ticketmaster Resale for the same Red Hot Chili Peppers show I mentioned are comparable to those on Viagogo. In fact, the $700 tickets going on Ticketmaster Resale aren't even GA. They're seated tickets. And all this is worth noting because it highlights that this isn't a Viagogo problem. It's an industry problem. And that's important because the only way we can tackle it is at an industry level. Another issue with these companies is in regards to deception. Indeed, the ACCC have already taken Viagogo to court because of statements which can be misleading to the consumer. Banners that read, less than 1% of tickets remaining for this event, when really there may be a lot more than that available on the actual official line of sale. There are also issues with the way that they conduct themselves in marketing that the ACCC didn't touch. Rolling with the brilliantly minded move of maintaining the #1 paid presence at the top of every Google search for tickets and even artists. It makes them look like an official ticket service for events. Essentially, they're tricking people into thinking that they're the one and only first stop to buy tickets. They also act as enablers, providing a breeding ground for scalpers and fraudsters. All markets need to be balanced so that they aren't abused, and at the moment there is a lot of abuse going on. There's horror stories of people selling tickets that aren't what they say they are, or that are invalid, or to multiple different buyers. Imagine selling the same ticket to 3 different people and you triple your income, creating a Russian roulette of whoever buys those tickets. A game of Russian roulette that those people didn't even know they were playing. I've seen people get turned away at the door at gigs and events like Download Festival, where tickets were face value of around $170. So who knows what someone who got them from a reseller would have paid. And as I was in the line for security checks for download, the two guys in front of me got turned away. "Did you get your tickets from Viagogo?" asked one of the gatekeepers. "Yeah." "Why?" asked the confused 20-something. "Your tickets have already been scanned. Sorry, mate. If you go to the sales desk and tell them you got your tickets from Viagogo, we'll see what we can do." But what can they do, really? There is actually a guarantee from Viagogo themselves. The Viagogo guarantee. Or Ticketmaster Resale has the buyer's guarantee. And StubHub has the Fan Protect guarantee. But what do these actually guarantee? Well, they do actually offer, in limited circumstances, they offer refunds. And a lot of people have successfully claimed refunds by contacting support. I'd like to give the situation I mentioned before at the Gates of Download Festival the benefit of the doubt that they'd be able to get their money back. But some of the feedback and complaints make me pretty skeptical. And even if they did, what if you travelled for the show? What if you paid for accommodation? What if it was a special event or you bought them for your partner? RIP you. Review website Trustpilot show that Ticketmaster Resale have 73% of people who left feedback with a good or excellent experience with the platform. Viagogo trailed that with 64%. And for StubHub, only 39% of consumers who left feedback had a good or excellent experience. So best case, you've got more than a quarter of your customers bloody hate you, or if you're StubHub, almost 2/3. It really actually sums up this issue. Enough people are using it with positive experiences so that it kind of slides under the radar for a lot of people until they do have a bad experience. But the bad experiences are happening a lot more often than they should. And those experiences are certainly bad enough that we should pay attention. There are a lot of examples describing a seller-biased market with seemingly no repercussions when the ticket seller completely disregards the timeframes that the buyer was promised, either when they're supposed to be contacted or when they're supposed to have their tickets delivered by. And a lot of the negative reviews and feedback seem to come from people who've been shafted by the loopholes, the flaws in the guarantees, people who don't believe they've got what they purchased because they've got super shitty seats, but because the seller was vague about the seats, the customer isn't right. Or things like tickets that were never received, but the customer was charged anyway. When they asked for a refund, they were told that the delivery was not accepted or was an incorrect delivery address. All their details were apparently correct, so it looks by all accounts that the tickets weren't sent properly. But once again, the customer isn't right. And when the customer is right, there's still major issues that need to be worked through. So we know what ticket resellers were intended for. And we know how far from that mark they actually sit. And no system is perfect, but they shouldn't be this bad. So how did it get this way? Well, a large part of the issue is due to outdated legislation. Every law had to start somewhere, and it's unreasonable to expect that it'll change at the rate of technology. Copyright and media laws are examples of that. You can't really expect the people who contacted each other on landlines and went to Blockbuster to rent a VHS on Saturday night are going to make laws in real time that are going to take into account things like streaming services, driverless cars, electronic tickets, or Roombas. Should Roombas try and kill us or something? Australian consumer law seems to be nowhere near specific enough to confidently rule scalpers as breaking it. Laws are also not cohesive or consistent between the states. New South Wales were the first state to outlaw scalper bots, and South Australia has made it illegal to on-sell a ticket for more than 10% the original price. But a lot of the others, if any legislation at all around scalping, seem to focus on major sporting events, which not only is the definition of major up for debate, it's neglecting the entire arts sector. The other reason why things ended up so bad is because of culture. What do you expect when you create a company whose whole premise is selling access to a product that others have pulled together? You create a culture where KPIs are around sales, a culture where selling becomes all, and one where you're used to handballing to those who put on the actual event when there's any real issues. Now, these guys claim we make every reasonable effort to provide information on a ticket's original face value to you on the website and to ensure that that information is accurate. But the inflated prices and absence of the actual price really speak for themselves here. There is obviously a huge unspoken gain that these companies get. That's the fees for the use of their platform. And I say unspoken because they don't actually disclose the amounts. Not before you actually have something to sell and start working through the process, just that they're automatically calculated or added on. Even in their specific terms, there are a lot of mentions of fees for buyers and for sellers, but no specific mentions of percentages or amounts, which only leaves room for them to charge whatever the hell they want at a later stage without having to update their terms. StubHub actually began to do just that in 2014. After years of having a flat 10% fee, they started charging buyers a fluctuating fee depending on location, popularity, and, basically whether or not they can make more money from you. Which in a business sense is smart. But in a socially conscious business sense, it's probably not so smart. Can you imagine the outcry if Coke started charging more for drinks on hot days? For water? Now, Viagogo's seller fees are about 15% of the listing price, but they also take a buyer fee of 30% of the listing price. And Ticketmaster Resale are pretty comparable, and they charge a 25% buyer fee. Yes, by all means, these companies are entitled to charge for their service, but when it becomes all about the dollars, that's when it becomes a problem. And we know these companies care more about money because they've shown us in their actions. First of all, reporters from the Toronto Star and CBC went undercover and pretended to be scalpers at a Ticketmaster conference in Las Vegas. Sales agents from Ticketmaster Resale themselves ended up bragging to these guys about enabling scalpers with hundreds of accounts to buy up on tickets. They discussed software that can help them do that. Now, elsewhere in the world, things have gone a lot better in the UK, and restrictions have recently been placed onto ticket resellers after they lost in the High Court in the UK. The perfect opportunity to really assess the way these companies do business in other countries and make sure they're keeping consumers in mind. But when the New Daily asked Ticketmaster Resale if they were looking to do the same for Australia, they said no, without any elaboration. We're fine. Going to keep our business model the way it is, where it's all about the money. So it's pretty clear how things got this bad. Companies who are chasing sales don't care about accountability or the consumer, so the issues just keep gnawing away at society. So what can we do? Well, unfortunately, we can't update the laws ourselves, but we can lobby so that our representatives do change them. That's what all these musicians and promoters calling out this issue are trying to do. Ensuring Australia is consistent across state and federal level with legislation is probably the first priority. In Germany, recently, they went so far as to ban the sale of tickets on Viagogo completely for Rammstein's latest tour. But banning the resale marketplaces completely likely isn't the answer. Because, like I mentioned, at a high level, they were genuinely fulfilling a consumer need. And you cannot ignore that. Forbidding these sites from selling tickets is also not going to curb the demand, which means it's most likely going to push people to do the same thing on pages like Gumtree or the Trading Post or the back alleys of St Kilda like traditional scalpers. This means that it's going to have the same problems, but the potential of it ending up much worse. And there's less chance to reel it in and control it. See, if we can control the power that ticket resellers have, then we can win. If we can limit their ability to well and truly rip off people by putting caps on how much they can sell tickets for example. We can also outlaw the tools that allow scalpers to take advantage in the first place. We can win. And the current federal opposition party actually has announced a plan to do just that. It's got a lot of support from a lot of the music industry. So if anyone else wants to have any chance of winning the young people's vote next election, the standard has been set pretty high in this area. They've even put forth that the ACCC is going to review after 12 months to ensure it's actually not harming competition and consumers are being looked after. Now, Bill Shorten may suffer from an apparent lack of personality, but I think him and his Labour Party should be commended on this proposal. Not just because they have the support of Dave LaPuepe's rugged good looks, but because they are massive steps in a direction that will only help consumers. And I think they're going about it in the right way. But I do think they're missing a key part of enabling scalpers' success through ticket resellers. And that's the millions of dollars search providers like Google are getting to put Viagogo tickets first. Way ahead of any legitimate ticket seller, you'll find Viagogo. And there's been mounting pressure with petitions and politicians urging Google to crack down, particularly in the UK, but the search results really speak for themselves, as do the millions they get in advertising each year. So unless we put some real pressure on their responsibility to clean up the industry, it doesn't look like the search engines are going to take much of a stand. So we need to protect these things. We're not talking limited edition Yeezys marketed to create high demand and chucked up on eBay. These are limited experiences created by humans. Gang of Youths played 8 sold-out shows in Melbourne last tour. They cannot play here literally every night forever. We need to preserve them. And with the high demand not going away, the only way we can do that is by cutting out scalpers where they stand. Once we put in legislation though, then comes enforcement, which is the hard part. It's a lot more difficult. See, although New South Wales have placed some brave new laws in the direction we want to head, as I understand it, so far no one has been charged. This could fall under the government to create something, or potentially could be an industry body that's independent. However, for this to happen, there first needs to be the legislation. Artists and promoters can't do it all alone. Ed Sheeran's promoter in the UK tried to. He recently found himself being sued by Viagogo because he set up a fake Viagogo stall at Ed Sheeran shows to attract customers who purchased tickets from the resale site. When they got there to get their tickets scanned and enter the show, they were told their tickets were invalid and they had to buy a new ticket. Viagogo's claim is a fraud, and they're angry because he turned away people who had legitimate tickets simply because they bought them from Viagogo. Not because they didn't work or had already been scanned. So their claim's fair enough too, because taking it out on the consumer is never the right way to go. But if promoters are powerless, then that means it's up to us, up to you. It's up to you to speak out about your experiences, contact your local MPs, and push government representatives to make changes. Not just to tackle ticket resale marketplaces, but also enablers like Google. If your ticket reseller isn't giving you a resolution or shafting you, talk to the ACCC, hold them to account. But see, it's also up to you to avoid using ticket resellers. Tricky, I know, but at the very least, just avoiding those that have exorbitant prices is going to make a difference, because in some way, it's essentially going to force them to lower back down their prices to a reasonable level because they'll have no choice. It's up to you, because now is the time we hold ticket scalpers accountable.